After Steamboat Willie's triumph, Walt Disney faced new struggles. But how did the barn dance become Mickey Mouse's next sound adventure? And what clever gag did Mickey Mouse use to try to win Minnie's heart? Stick around for the story of this reality-bending classic. Hi everyone, I'm Dennis and this is West of Neverland. If you like classic Disney animation, then this is the place for you. Today we're diving into The Barn Dance, the 1929 Mickey Mouse short that helped perfect Walt Disney's synchronized sound techniques. Let's get started. With Steamboat Willie's sound recording complete, Walt was still in New York chasing distribution deals, but he hated every minute of it. He had already spent about $6,000 and was in need of more money. He had asked Roy back in California to go ahead and mortgage both of their properties, and he had to ask for some additional land to be mortgaged so that he could pay for his expenses while he was there. Back in California, Ub was still working on the animated short that he had started before Disney had left, The Barn Dance. Walt, through letters, was pressuring him to keep going and work hard. In fact, he said, if you've ever worked like hell in your life before, do it now. Walt really wanted to return home. The Barn Dance is the first Mickey Mouse cartoon that doesn't appear to be directly inspired by anything in pop culture. I mean, except for maybe the popularity of barn dances. But, Plain Crazy was based on Charles Lindbergh's Flight. Gallopin' Gaucho was based on the Douglas Fairbanks movie, The Gaucho. And Steamboat Willie, as we learned in my last video, was inspired by the song Steamboat Bill and the movie Steamboat Bill Jr. In these early days, it's clear that Disney and his team saw that music was the best way to produce sound that could synchronize to the animation. The short opens with Mickey riding up to Minnie's house on his horse-drawn cart with the song The Old Gray Mare playing in the background. When Mickey pulls up in front of Minnie's house, he sees her in the window, and at that, Mendelssohn's Spring Song plays in the background. It kind of becomes her little theme for this movie. Mickey and the horse both look up at Minnie's window, and she sees them and pulls in her laundry from the line, and her bloomers are out on the line. And so the horse looks at them all googly-eyed, and Mickey gets indignant at that and pulls down a shade in front of the horse's eyes to shield, I guess, Minnie's honor or dignity. These bloomers are a recurring gag in these shorts, and it's just funny, fun 1929 humor. Down the street, Mary Had a Little Lamb plays a little bit as Pete drives up in his fancy new motor car. And so he pulls up, and as he parks out there, Mickey's already there. They're both waiting for Minnie to come out. Pete starts impatiently honking his horn. Well, Mickey, not to be outdone, looks and finds a passing duck, picks up the duck and starts squeezing the duck to make a honking sound. So they're both out in front of Minnie's house honking. The parrot, Minnie's pet parrot that's sitting on the front porch, it paces back and forth and gets a little impatient with them and shouts out something that, again, just like in Steamboat Willie, is a little hard to understand. I have the answer to what he's saying. I'll share that with you a little bit later. So, after all of the honking is over, Minnie comes out, sees Pete's fancy new motor car, and decides to go with him instead of Mickey. So she gets in the car and immediately it crashes into a tree. And she's put out by that and decides to go to the dance with Mickey. As Mickey and Minnie make their way to the dance, and Mickey has to struggle with the horse's tail getting in the way of his flirting with Minnie. There's a little gag in here that is part of the kind of reality bending that they used to do in these early shorts. The tail gets in the way so long and frustrates Mickey to the extent that he jumps out of the cart and pulls the horse's head in a way that makes, because it's connected by the spinal column, I guess shortens the tail. So it's just one of those kind of weird stretches of reality that isn't going to be the last time in the short that something like that happens. It gets bigger. At the dance, the band is playing Pop Goes the Weasel as all of the different animals in the barn are dancing around, having fun. In this short, there was actually a scene that was cut from the final picture. The story point, at least, was a hen and a rooster dancing together very fast, and then the hen has to stop because she has to go lay an egg. And then they start dancing again. This was actually reused in a later short, Mickey's Follies, and it's pretty funny the way they do it. I'll have a video on Mickey's Follies as well, coming soon. Mickey and Minnie arrive at the dance, and they start dancing, but Mickey is not a good dancer. And this is illustrated in this short by Mickey stepping on Minnie's feet. But he doesn't just step on her feet, his feet grow bigger and bigger and heavier, and he is oblivious to any of this going on. And he keeps stepping on her so much that he stretches out her leg and ends up stepping on her, and then she calls an end to it and is upset because her leg is so long. And to solve this problem, she ties her leg into a knot to shorten it back to the right length, and takes out a pair of scissors and cuts off the excess and throws it away. This is fairly gruesome, if you ask me, but this is an example of just the reality bending that they did in these early shorts, not just Mickey Mouse, but a lot of these shorts back in this time, in this day and age. Later, Walt Disney would talk about the importance of grounding animation in reality, that it had to be something that the audience could identify with. It could be exaggerated and caricatured and everything like that, but it had to be something that we could relate to. I think that the illustration of Mickey's feet getting bigger and stepping on her toes is a cute way to show someone is a bad dancer. But the cutting off the excess leg because it got all stretched out, that is just crazy. So after Minnie is frustrated with Mickey, she turns to Pete and decides to go and dance with him. Pete, surprisingly, is a very graceful dancer. Minnie and Pete dance to Reuben and Rachel, the old folk song from the 1800s. Mickey is pretty sad off in the corner, sees some balloons floating, and gets an idea that one of these helium balloons could help to lighten his feet. So he sticks it in his pants and bounces over to Minnie and cuts in and is able to be a graceful dancer because he's a little lighter on his feet. And Minnie is impressed for a while, but until Pete discovers Mickey's trick and pops the balloon. Mickey lands on Minnie, she's upset, and she goes away with Pete, making Mickey the loser. This shows you how, in these early shorts, Mickey's personality wasn't quite defined yet. He was kind of a lovable loser and a little bit of a rascal in some of these early cartoons. He wasn't the everyman, identifiable, wins out in the end character that he became pretty quickly. The Barn Dance premiered on March 15th, 1929, and it was a success. The reviews called it a pleasant relaxation from Variety. Motion Picture News said that it was an evolution of animal characters for comedy, and the Film Daily said that the horse is one of the funniest cartoon characters seen in the animateds. I kind of like that term, animateds. As the third short released in the series, it was a milestone helping to push along Mickey's popularity in these synchronized sound cartoons. Later that year, in November 10th, 1929, the Barn Dance was shown by the Film Society of London at the Tivoli on the Strand, and it showed alongside the battleship Potemkin, the famous film by Sergei Eisenstein, and who was attending that event. And also the author Aldous Huxley attended that. So this goes to show you that even at this point in time, by mid to late 1929, Mickey Mouse was already becoming a global sensation. A year later, Eisenstein visited Disney's studio in Hollywood. So let's return to the moment outside Minnie's house where Mickey and Pete are honking, the horn and the duck. To get Minnie to come out. Well, and the parrot is getting impatient with all of the noise going on, and so he yells something to them. What is he yelling? Well, and what he says is, "Stop that blankety blank noise." The parrot only appeared in a handful of Mickey Mouse shorts, which is a shame. I like the sassy little guy. I hope you've enjoyed this journey through the history of the barn dance and how it added to the popularity of Mickey Mouse in 1929. If you did and you'd like to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. And since the barn dance is also in the public domain, why not click here and watch it and see for yourself all of this 1929 animated magic. Go ahead. You know you want to.